Incredible sight here at Perge. Unbelievable.
Things we want to point out is the biblical use of the various writers of material culture to illustrate spiritual points, and Paul does this several times in using the stadium background. So I would presume Paul had attended events in a stadium and has seen some of this. So remember in Galatians 2:2 and 5:7, he uses this as a background. I wanted to be sure that I was not running and had not been running my race in vain. So he uses the metaphor of running. You were running a good race.
It says this guy was a gladiator of this guy, which means it was a slave of somebody. And he had, on his life, he fought it 100 times, 95 victories, and 4 times pardon.
Well, we're in Perge, and it's awesome.
Okay. And also the wild.
We're in the stadium right now, actually.
The spectators, they were sitting on it, and you see the wall, which is a little bit higher.
The stadium.
There will be probably a little fence.
They used to have it.
It's
a big horseshoe, like almost
and the
an
crowd
oval,
was sitting there.
that you can't see is not filled in. So I would say it's probably 50% larger than a football field.
Yeah, it looks a lot longer, doesn't it?
150, maybe even 200 yards. I don't know. It's longer.
Gladiators would have come through. It's like a staging area in here. Wow. This is, you know what's happened right here before. This is crazy.
Right.
Man, this is just completely crazy. It's pretty steep here. I don't think it meets ADA standards. I'm gonna give it a shot though. Wow, you could fall off. I'm gonna give it a go on climbing up here. Okay. I've actually got some stairs that might work a little better. Give it a shot. Let's see if I can catch up with. Just gonna walk around up on the top here. So,
I'm walking away from it.
Marvel you'll see inside the city and at the museum later for statues, all brought in. They've identified at least 3 quarries, one at Proconnesus up in the Sea of Marmara, another one Dokunayan, which is in central Turkey. So imagine bringing that heavy marble all the way down to the coast or in, and even from the Pentelic quarry outside of Athens, they brought marble into the city here for use. Now this is a particular type of stone we'll see everywhere here. You can identify it immediately. Anybody, I'm not a geologist, but know what kind of stone this is?
Basalt? No?
it looks like granite.
It's granite. Yeah. Troas, and walked up and there's a sign that says granite column from Alexandria Troas.
Pretty amazing.
A branch would have turned going to Italia, which will be the way we go back into the city. The other one would over the top of the hill back to the port of Bagadas that we saw before, but this is the way they would have come in. We'll see this especially tomorrow and talk more about the fact that the roads came through the ancient cemeteries, the necropolis of the city, which are always outside the city gates. And in recent years, they've excavated this particular monumental tomb of a very famous woman of this city by the name of Plankia Magna.
This is the entrance where you the wall, the columns, and also you have it in it's heavy. Very briefly, but in the afternoon we will see
Greek the gate before, so this is the 4-column propylon. What kind of stone do we have on these monoliths? That is, they're made of columns made of one stone. They are of shine. You can hear shade
and bell.
So, just a word, listen up closely what Cenk is saying here, because I want to build on his discussion of Roman baths tomorrow when they get around Laodicea. So, as he said, this is the best bath we're going to see. We'll spend more time in here explaining how they operate, and then as we go through like Ephesus and whatever, he'll just say, well,
Four
that's
different rooms. Okay, the first room is the apoditorium, which is the place where you take off your clothes and be naked. And after that, you have the second room, which is called frigidarium, which is the cold part. Okay, you can have a small pool and or a basin, okay, where you have the fresh water. And then after that, you have a third room, which is called tepidarium, which is the tepid area. This is the place where your body used to get some hot water, and then you enter to a place where you have just the hot water and hot air. That's the place where it's completely heated. This is the place where you add your water, your body, and you wash yourself and everything. It is the place which is called caldarium.
So marble veneer on the front of the limestone. Yeah, right. Yeah, kind of blue.
Yeah, once you enter, so after apoditorium, now we are in frigidarium, and this place we have, this one is a large, nice frigidarium. We will see the same kind of beautiful, fancy apoditorium, frigidarium. Chimney, it goes out from there. This is how they... And then on the way back, your slave put some olive oil on your body with perfumed ones. So this is not everyday thing. It's maybe once a week, once a 3 days.
Yeah, that's beautifully done.
It's not bad.
This is original, this is not restored.
The sign over there, they'll call this a Macellum, which is the Latin version, which means meat market. And we'll talk about this as a real issue in these early churches of buying food or meat, particularly sacrificed to idols. So this would be the place where the Gentiles, I mean, Jews would never be purchasing meat here. So this would not be kosher meat. They would have their own butcher shops to provide kosher meat for their communities, but this is where you get meat sacrificed to idols. The second thing is that the redemption language in the New Testament is based on the agora. So, I mean, we get our word in English, agoraphobia, okay, fear of the open spaces. So this is the agora, the marketplace. But when Paul writes to the Corinthians, it says you were bought with a price. The verb there is agorazo, okay? So redemption language, because not only were fruits and vegetables, fish, meat sold here, but slaves were sold here in the agora, okay? And so Paul is using, again, a material culture background here of the public marketplace where slaves are bought and sold. To talk about you were bought with a price, the precious blood of Jesus. So this is why Paul's language of being a slave purchased by the Lord, a doulos. So the slave would be bought and sold here in the agora. So here in Asia Minor, women had a very unique and much more public role, even in Greece, Rome, and within Jewish culture. And we find many of them becoming synagogue leaders who are named. And in this city, we have this woman I mentioned by the name of Plankia Magna. Her father was a Roman governor of Bithynia, and she grew up in an elite family from this city. And she functioned in various roles in civic administration. And they're more than honorary. So sometimes then scholars will say, well, these are just honorary positions with a woman name attached to them. They didn't really have any function to them, but it's really not the case here. And so Plankia Magna, her brother was quite important in the city, also a Roman citizen who later served in Rome. And so what did she do here? So through her benefaction, so the wealthy in these cities were expected to do things within the city. So she's the one that reconstructed this place to actually kind of make a civic museum. So you can see how the modification of the Hellenistic towers to build this semicircular type structure with niches on the bottom. And the niches on this side then would have the connections to the traditions of the founding of the city. Such people like Rosas, Caucus, Mopsus. And so it's very important for ancient cities to create these traditions to show their antiquity, their connections. And then on this side, she featured other statues related to herself, her father, her brother, and other important people within the city. And you're going to see in the museum later a very nice statue of Blanca Magna in the museum that stood in one of those niches here. Bilingual inscription. So the patron goddess of this city was Artemis as well, but her epithet was not Artemis of the Ephesians, and Cenk will be talking about Artemis more when we get to that top, and then Artemide, Pergaia, Plastia Magna in Greek below that. And so she is a high priestess of the Temple of Artemis. She also sponsors the Neophorus for the imperial cult here. So she is a woman that functions in a high level of society as a benefactor for a number of
Perge. Okay. Yes, we have the canal in the middle. This is the Cardo, actually, yes, because we are on the south.
Still walking down Main Street heading out of town. Behind me is the town.
I mean, we are on the main street of the city,
All
from
right.
the Cardo. We're heading through the area where the water was coming, and also this road. You see how long it is, and you can see this canal. You can imagine this this canal has this since every almost
The stone canal
I
here.
would say 10 meters, and then it's like a filter system. It's also got the water's pressure, so the water slowly coming down. So this part, it was completely underneath, so they excavated, they found it, and those columns.
Still walking down the Main Street entrance.
found in the excavations at these insula at the corners here. When we talk about an insula, it'll be a city block with inhabited with shops usually on the front and with peristyle type houses, which we'll see examples of in other places within these insulae. And these were found in there, and they brought them out and re-erected them. So they would have been in a public place along these, and these date just after the time Paul was here in the city in the 50s. So we're talking about Paul in the city here from 46 to 48, roughly the dating of the first journey here. So why are these important? There are a series of several inscriptions that have been found both in Lycia and in Pamphylia related to the Roman organization of this area. So the view that you'll still see in some Roman history is reflected in Roman atlases, and also in biblical atlases as well, is that Lycia and Pamphylia were formed into one province by Claudius in 43. So there was a rebellion in Lycia, and then Claudius took control of Lycia that had been autonomous up to that point, and then made this double province. But suddenly we've been finding these inscriptions, and we can see in the Latin text here the province Provincia of Galaticae and Pamphylia here, that is telling us that Pamphylia was a part of Galatia in this period study. So the classic argument has been that Paul, in his letter to the Galatians, those of you who have been in the grad school have been talking about, is Paul addressing the North Galatian hypothesis of the South Galatian hypothesis. So the South Galatian was the 4 cities that are mentioned in Acts 13-14 that he revisits on the second and third journeys as he's traveling through. Luke doesn't really say that, but we know Paul does that regularly. But this is telling us now that Perge and Italia are also in the province of Galatia as well. So if Paul is forming churches here in these cities, which I think he does have them preaching the gospel, we have a middle Galatia, which is really where the four mentioned in Acts 13, and the true South Galatia. We're in South Galatia because it goes all the way to the Mediterranean. A friend, Fatih Onur, who's a Turkish epigrapher here, had seen the top in the museum as he was looking at inscriptions. It mentioned the donor, and he correctly placed that with this particular inscription. And the particular text for this says, to Sextus Afrianus Burrus, son of Sextus, from the tribe of Voltinia, military tribune, procurator of Augusta, procurator of the god Claudius of the province of Galatia and Pamphylia, praetorian prefect of the god Claudius and Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, dedicated Tiberius Claudius Placimus. So he's the dedicator of this. Freedman of the god Augustus. Notice the frequent reference to the divinity of the emperor and the priest to his friend for the sake of his honor. So the Boris then, who Paul appeared before when he's taken to Rome in the captivity journey. So you may see those possible connections. We don't know, it's conjecture, it's possible.
Thing's way bigger than I thought. That we were at the end.
People say, do we know exactly where the apostles walked? I can tell you almost 100% Paul and Barnabas were right here. Because they entered the city and they turned this way. In your free time you can walk up to the northwest gate, which they would have passed through on their way to the city in Antioch and return the same way. So we're at an intersection of a road that was built soon after the Romans took control and established the Roman province of Asia. So it's not the province of Rome. This is another thing you see in scholarship, the province of Asia Minor. There never was a province of Asia Minor. It's a province of Asia. Asia Minor is this landmass that goes to the Euphrates River. That's a later medieval name for Anatolia, what it's called today, the land to the east from the Greeks. And so, we'll see his name on a milestone in Ephesus, Manius Aquilius. So he realized the importance of connecting his province with the Mediterranean. So he built a road, and again, these are following much earlier ancient tracks, from Ephesus to Laodicea, another road from Pergamum that met at the junction of Laodicea, passed on over the mountains over here, and then dropped down and connected all the way down here to Perge that ran to Side, which is another city in Pamphylia on the coast. And we have a milestone in Side giving approximately 390 Roman miles all the way from Pergamum to Side. So they were able to connect the two major coastal cities with the Mediterranean port at Side. It's spelled S-I-D-E, in case you see it. It's not side, but Side. So this is an extremely important road, and it's this road then, at least part of it then, that Augustus paves in 6 BC when he builds the Via Sebaste. So he starts his road here. Before that, it's a packed dirt type track, maybe with some gravel on it. And now he paves this all the way to Pisidian Antioch, and the first stage continues on to Lystra with this. And so it's really this road then, built by Manius Aquilius, that connects the route of the 7 churches that we see in that order in the book of Revelation. He built a road on the west coast that connected Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, all the way.
Okay. Well, here we are.
What do you think, Dennis?
I think we've been walking a long way, man.
Getting our steps in today.
And to think that Paul and Silas and Luke were right back there on that corner for sure, 100%.
100%. It's pretty amazing.
And then this,
This was a fountain, and then the water came here. I don't know how it got in there, but it did somehow.
I think they've got an aqueduct coming off the mountain there.
Yeah.
It's incredible how far that is.
Yeah. Goes all the way into the city, and this road is pretty wide. Looks like there's a canal here too.
Yeah. So they would have to have perfect grading on those to make that work.
Perfect what?
grading
Yeah.
the slope.
So this right here is in the main seat.
It's just, it goes on forever.
Oh my goodness.
Holy moly.
Antioch and Pisidia. Or Antioch near Pisidia.
My goodness.
Nice to meet you. Tyler, I'm John. John, nice to meet you.
You said Kyler with a K, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Answer to a lot of things.
I got you. You been here before?
No, I haven't.
Is this overwhelming?
That's
Entering the theater here. We have 10 minutes to be on the bus. Holy moly, look at this.
it seats thousands,
It
man.
does. All right, David, we have a new business, a building plan here. Wow. So where would you stand here for your sermon and I could check the acoustics? I'm not gonna walk to the top though, that's a...
Come on.
I could walk to the top.
No, don't.
That's like Bulldog Stadium. No way I'm going to the top. Let me see here.